Alright everybody, welcome back! So, with the recent discussions in the community about the economy, we have the whole, review bombing thing going on and everything else. I'm going to be talking about the economy later on and my personal views on it, so if you want to stick around for that, appreciate that. I'll have a timestamp in the description down below if you really don't want to hear this, but I want to talk about something first of all that I think is actually more important than the economy, at least short term. And that is Realshatter. Now, I haven't heard nearly enough about this in the community at large. I have heard other CCs talking about it a little bit, but for those of y'all who don't know, Realshatter was a mechanic added this patch, which is supposed to make the damage of aircraft guns more realistic. Now, while this is good in theory, it leads to stuff just like this right here on the screen, where you see I'm absolutely filling him with 23mm shells, which should have killed him, and would have last patch, but this time, at least, he's not actually fully dead. And he's actually about to almost hit me here in a second, when I've already filled him with at least 30 shells, and if you ask me, he should be dead already. I think this is a really major concern, and it really impedes your efforts to actually gain silver lions in the first place if you're worried about the economy. Now, Yellowjacket did a much better job explaining this than I can, and I am still going to cover this, but I'm going to link his post on Reddit down in the description below if you want to check that out. Shout out to him for allowing me to use this as well. But essentially, like I said, they're trying to make the damage more realistic, and so what it's supposed to do is create a fragmentation pattern with a random number and a random direction of fragments, right? Before, it was a set number of fragments that would go out in a sphere, which is not the way it works, right? Because, physics exist. The problem with this is that, just like volumetric shells and armor and tanks, they added this very, very much prematurely. So according to Yellowjacket, either due to incorrect interaction with the damage model, which is possible, or possibly just due to Gaijin wanted guns to not do damage, as of right now, a lot of HE shells are only creating 0 to 3 fragments, which is not realistic, which was the whole purpose of implementing Realshatter in the first place. So an HE shell has two different components that do damage, the HE aura and the fragments, of course. So HE aura only applies to the modules that the shell actually hits directly. So if a shell is not fragmenting, then all you're going to do is do a little bit of damage to the exact module that you hit. And so that causes a lot of issues, especially with Hispanos and R23s, where if you're not actually hitting the pilot or other stuff like that, you're just leaving a lot of hits and sparks. You saw in the intro, just like I showed you right there. Because as those fragments go in a random direction, even though it's supposed to be more realistic, they can actually randomly fly back into the module that the aura already hit, which means that the shell is going to do the exact same damage it would have done just by a direct impact anyways. There's going to be no fragmentation damage whatsoever. Now, what this forces you to do right now is to run AP on almost all guns. Like the M61s, the Hispanos, the Shavaks, the NR23s, all that kind of stuff. You gotta run AP, and the problem with AP is that, once again, you have to actually hit something directly to do damage. If you hit a section of the aircraft that doesn't have a fuel tank, doesn't have engine, anything like that, you're just going to get hit or a crit, and then there's going to fly circles around you and kill you anyway. It's especially problematic in planes which are slower than everything else. Like you can see, I just went head-on with F-84 right there. I'm in the C meteor right now. I am slower than most other things in this BR. I rip at 850 kilometers an hour, sometimes even in a straight line. And so because I wasn't able to kill him head-on right there, I go head-on again with him. Probably shouldn't have. I get lucky here and he only crits me. But what if I was in something that, didn't actually have the ability to turn on a dime like my CGs? Well, then I would have been out of luck, unfortunately. Now, AP does still do some fairly reliable damage as long as you have a good fire rate, like the T-160s or the M61. See, I'm using the F2 Saber right now, partially because I'm about to use it to talk about the economy. But try running AP if you've been having issues with high explosive. Hopefully it'll help. More than that, I really, really want them to revert this change. I don't understand why the community was freaked out about these economy changes, which is justifiable, but there was nothing about Realshatter, which there was no vote for, there was no request for in the first place, because the rank-based economy and the lowered multiplier for a winning game was actually, voted on. This was just Gaijin implementing it without any feedback or anything else, because everyone I knew was fine with guns the way they were. They were fine with guns doing damage. But either way, I figure y'all probably want to hear me talk about the economy now. So, first of all, my personal opinion, this is all just my personal opinion, on the economy, is that it should be used to incentivize players to become better. Now, those of y'all who have been watching me probably know that the whole reason I'm doing this channel in the first place is because I want to educate people. I want players to become better over time. I think, especially at these higher BRs, that, player skill should be a huge part of the game. I think that having skilled players on both sides is much more fun than just having someone in, an SC-25 just flying in a straight line, bombing a base, and then they go and fly behind them and shoot them down. That's not fun and engaging for either side. Now, what I mean by incentivizing isn't that the average player should be punished. I think that if you're going 1-to-1 without a premium account, you should break even, maybe make a little bit of silver lines. So if you have a 10k repair cost, for example, I think you should make at least 10k back, preferably 11 or 12k, so you can make a small margin and at least progress a little bit. Now, I think you should try to be better than that, which is why I think that if you're making 11 or 12k per kill, that'll help incentivize that. Because if you get 3 kills that way, now all of a sudden you've made 30,000 silver lines, and even if you die, you still have a profit of 20,000. And as you get better, you're incentivized to continue getting better. I think that's a great thing. Now the problem is that is not how the current system is set up. My F2 Saber has a 20,000 silver line repair cost right now. With a 420% silver line modifier, that means that, by the way, that is with premium, I get between 5 and 6k silver lions on average per kill. Now that does increase, with the win or the loss percentage, because if you lose, you get an extra 20% silver lions. If you win, you get an extra, I think it's 47% silver lions. I'll flash it on screen and post editing just to make sure. But still, without that, I would have to get at least 3 to 4 kills to break even with a premium account. That would mean that I would have to get 6 to 8 kills to break even without a premium account, which I think is ridiculous. This is what I want corrected. I don't want repair costs to go away, because I think they are a good feature, within moderation. I do think they help to allow for better gameplay. I think they also prevent griefing. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want a squad of 4 people just crashing themselves on takeoff because I think it's funny, and they don't have to pay a penalty for doing so. But I also think that having to get, 4, 5, 6 kills to break even without a premium account also isn't good, because there should still be room for growth, and I think that if you're getting at least 2 or 3 kills, you're already doing better than most of the player base right now. So that's the biggest thing that I want adjusted. I do also want to say what I would really, really, really like is, so Gaijin on their post, which I was not too happy with, it was pretty tone deaf. They did say some things I did agree with. I do like the idea of working your way up through the ranks and getting more skilled. And I thought that, they need to make money. That's also totally fine. And they don't want you to progress too fast, but they also don't really want you to progress too slow. Which is good in theory, but then you look at just how stupidly long the tank and the helicopter grind is. To be totally level with y'all, I am totally fine with the current air grind. I think that this is about as long as a grind should take. When it comes to, a couple dozen, maybe up to 100 vehicles. Ground grind is terrible, and helicopter grind is abysmal. I paid $60 for a helicopter premium, and I got 6 kills right here, and I got 3,000 RP. And almost every vehicle in there is 380k. It's actually ridiculous. Now, one final thing I want to say is regarding the War Thunder Player Union, and like I said earlier, the boycott. I'm not joining the War Thunder Player Union. I'm not going to clown anyone that does join it. All I ask is that you respect my decision not to. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, although I do agree that there needs to be an economy rework. I don't agree with all of what they want to happen. I also think that they are drastically overextending themselves right now when it comes to the scope of what they're trying to accomplish. I think that we should focus on just the economy for now, and then we can work on other things that we want changed after that. So, I also am not too fond of all the communist propaganda that they've been putting out and allowing to be put out. Same thing with, making it a theme. It's a little cringe, to be honest with you. So, I just don't want to be associated with that. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.